Let's close today's episode. Now, I know this episode took a while to come out. During this project, a lot was happening in our world, so much so that I had this overwhelming, burning desire to send you off with a well crafted message. Here it is. Let me reveal something shocking during my research for this episode, and I am extremely baffled and concerned by the totality of this ongoing issue. So I implore you to consider the following. Accordingly, a 2001 survey claimed that 77.1% of Canadians claim to have a Christian faith. This was 23 years ago. A decade later, a survey claimed that 67.3% of Canadians claim to have a Christian faith. That is 9.8% drop from the previous decade, so almost 10% there. Here is the nail in the coffin. In the following decade, a survey claimed that 53.3 of Canadians claim to have a Christian faith. That is a 14% drop from the previous decade. I don't know how America's like. I don't know what the statistics of wherever your geographic location is, but I'm only speaking for Canadians. What does this all mean? Retrospectively, these statistics reveal to us a moral reckoning of epic proportion of what we are experiencing as a society. I hate to say it. I really, really hate to say it. But the world is in a deep, sunken place. And we live in very troubling times where there is nothing short of seabeds of oppositions working hand in hand with the devil. The devil has demons and disciples as much as God has angels and apostles. So let me ask you, which side did you find yourself on this morning? There is this warfare between good and evil brewing, and it is a dangerous cocktail waiting to go up in flames. More now than ever, it is important for us to stay vigilant. Donald Trump, they tried to kill a sitting president. How do we get here? There are also unspeakable atrocities and deplorable acts of violence and genocide conflicted with innocent casualties of war. This is the very true form and nature of moral depravity and a primal example of humans overstepping. There is a quote by Alex Susanism, and it goes something like this. The world has a certain tolerance level for evil. There will always be evil in this world, but when that level is surpassed, all morality cracks and human beings become capable of anything. We are in a state of time, neither the heaven nor the earth knows what the fuck is going on. Excuse my French. I hate to say this, but that's just where we are. But what I really want to do is address the elephant in the room. I don't like the premise that whenever we want to have a rational conversation, people just want to be ignorant and irrational, which is really a bad omen if you ask me. We live in a time where we are praised and rewarded for being unethical. It's becoming a mantra in the very fabric of our society. And I think this is just sick and vile that anyone think that this behavior is acceptable. To give you more context to where we are headed, consider the following statistics provided by enterprise.com. Of course, this information was condensed for time. However, if you want to have a full read, again, go directly to enterprise.com. As of 2023, there are 33.38% of female and 66.62 male users of Onlyfans.com. As of January 2023, the OnlyFans statistics by demographic states that the highest number of users observed is between the age group of 25 to 34 years of age, resulting in 25.72%. There are 21.17% of OnlyFans users between the age group of 18 to 25 years old, and 3% and 12.87% belongs respectively between the age group of 35 to 44 years of age and between 45 to 54 years of age. 14% of users are aged between 55 to 64 years old. And finally, about 6.8 of OnlyFans users contributing from the age group of 65 years and older. I think everyone can agree and can acknowledge that OnlyFans is nothing else but a safer and more viable way to do porn and prostitution. It is essentially sex work, for the lack of better words, but the fact remains. I'm not here to knock on anyone's hustle because growing up is a series of uncomfortable collision. We are currently living in hyperinflation times, so I understand that the tides are shifting. So I get it. You got to get it how you can. I'm also going to be respectful towards people with a case by case situation because it is important to not paint everyone with the same brush. I can empathize and sympathize with those who don't have the means to fend for themselves and their families, which strips them to their fringes. I'm also not a huge fan of someone popping champagne or parading over someone's downfall. I'm really not. I want everyone to win, and I'm here for it. But be that as it may, just because I don't agree with your choices and decisions does not necessarily mean that we can't sit at the same table. It's possible for two things to be true at the same time. You know, with the direction that we are as a society find ourselves in, it's important to not just have compassion for one another, but it's important that all views need to be heard. We don't necessarily have to agree with someone, but that doesn't mean that we can't have a conversation. It's tough to be a female right now at this present moment. They are constantly being bombarded by social media with vanity and the message it brings, which leads to a lure of young and impressionable females thinking that sex is the only way to buy us into a good life. That in itself is a travesty. And it also is a dangerous narrative. Yet, it is a very common practice in the marketing and advertising industry. The phrase sex sells. Sex sells is a phrase alluding to the use of sex in advertising in order to help sell a particular product or service through sex appeal. I think we are only scratching the surface here. Allow me to expand. What I'm about to say may rub a lot of people the wrong way, but I think here is the paradox that sits at the very core of our society. I think I'm wrong for saying this, but I also think I'm right. And oftentimes people turn to me to tell the truth. So I'm going to say what everyone wants to say, but they're not saying it because they're scared of the smoke or they're scared to get canceled. I'm not. I'm just here to tell the uncomfortable truth, whether you like it or not. It's scary to think that these two separate statistics that were provided today have very revealing similarities that are striking to me. And with that, I'm going to be brutally honest because I don't have time to be disingenuous. I don't. I think the biggest problem our generation is facing is that there is a long standing debate about morals and ethics. And it's inconceivable that many people think that they are one and the same. Now, I can agree that they do come hand in hand, but I'm going to assure you there is a clear distinction between the two. Let me give you the framework. Morals are when a person knows not to cheat on their spouse or knows that they should not steal, all well knowing they still do it anyway. That's why a serial cheater continues to cheat because they have no shame. They can't acknowledge what they did was wrong. Ethics is when a person knows not to cheat on their spouse or knows that they should not steal and they simply just don't do it. This is why some people who would do something bad to someone, every time when this person crossed path, they would quickly cross the street to avoid them due to the shame that they feel or felt. This shame and humility is a good indication that this person has good ethics. You know what you did wrong and you feel extremely bad about it. Everyone can have a moral compass because the first talking point was self explanatory, and we all get that. But where we all fall short is we lack ethics to uphold those morals. So not everyone gets that. In the same breath, ethics should be the non negotiable gold standard in how we should live and conduct ourselves in full service to each other and to our society. There's a difference of being receptive and being responsible. There's a spectrum here. People are receptive but are usually passive about it, whereas there are people who are receptive but are responsible people. So it's important to be the voice of our own reasoning. A deceived person, by the very nature of deception, has no possible way of knowing that they're being deceived. That is, unless someone shines a light onto the issue, revealing the truth to them and exposing the lies for what they truly are: lies and deception. We are at a time with a lot of moral and ethical deficit. It appears that people no longer have a reservation for these things anymore, and it's up to us to cultivate the condition of our hearts. I'm sure there's a plethora of other things in the mix, but I strongly feel that a lot could be lost here. At such a time as this, I feel that we need to draw closer to God. Moreover, we have these uncanny ideas of what is deemed right or wrong. We have poor talking points without objective viewpoints. I'm not going to put it all on that, but the Bible has a lot of merit in this. The Bible can connect with anything, even to a burnt out light bulb. And if nothing else, the Bible is a great starting point to make ethics the new norm again. The Bible is very fascinating because things like the Ten Commandments are so accurate. There's actually 613 commandments from the Old Testament law, but we're not going to get all into that. But 7 out of 10 commandments, you do not have to be a follower of Christ to follow these commandments. It actually has very little to do with God, but more to do with the foundation and fundamentals that one must possess in order to become a decent human being. It weighs entirely on the concept of moral judgments and good ethics. It is also accurate in the fact that it is God's words, and once anyone can accept that, they will be able to hear the truth in it. We must abandon this spiritual and mental nakedness where we are shameless and we have no values. This leads me back to Angie and Ari. These two girls are the two faces and personification of our current ongoing crisis. And it is imperative that they continue to carry out God's work. I know these girls are getting dragged, but the strong person has never been those who point at those who stumble. In boxing, they give you 10 seconds to get back up after getting knocked down. So I'm a firm believer this is how we all should live our lives. We all need growing pains, more so that some of you need to hear this. So I'm going to say it. Growth usually comes from hardships, and they are usually ugly experiences, but the blessings are always in the lessons. That's if you choose to step away from your delusion, you'll be able to change your landscape. But I guess that's the funny thing about delusion is that we don't know that we are. I'm also a firm believer that people can change and salvage their life. We are all trying to find that thing that best reflects our time here, that gives our life deep meaning and purpose. Be patient with yourself. Great things take time to be discovered. Be mindful of your struggles because they greatly give our lives meaning. Conversely, they create new meaning for us to live and to carry on with a greater degree. So, in closing, just as they say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and ethics and morality are through the lens of one's experiences. We all may walk the same path, but each one of us will see different things on that very path. And with that, that wraps up today's episode. Keep your heart blessed in this world's mess. Go with God until next time. More peace to the world.